I can't wait for you to meet today's guest, Kelley Millsap. He's been the head coach at Orangetheory, Colorado Springs locations for almost 10 years. He's helped thousands of people achieve their fitness goals and have a positive impact on their lives. He always makes me laugh, has my back, and continually shows up for people day after day. Welcome, Kelley, to the show. This episode is brought to you by my favorite gut health products. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for up to 40% off your first order. But so much of our health is really dependent on our gut health, and the American diet depletes a lot of what we need. This system really helps weed out the bad bacteria and then seed and feed the good bacteria. This helps so much. I've noticed a difference in better sleep, more energy, and better skin. And I'm excited to share it with you today. I've got a question for you. Who's the person you're being? Are you satisfied? It's okay. This is a judge-free zone, and it's exactly why I started the show. Welcome to Be the Person, a podcast for the brave and the curious who are ready to explore who they are fully created to be. I'm your host, Randall, the adventurous one leading this investigative journey of transformation. By delving into topics and asking unexpected questions, we will discover the keys for unlocking our true potential and being our best selves today. You may be surprised by what you find when you let go of fear in order to discover the answers of becoming the person you were made to be. Welcome to Be the Person. I'm excited to have Kelley Millsap with us. He is the head coach for Orangetheory in Colorado Springs. We've worked together for the past 10 years. Welcome, Kelley, to Be the Person podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm excited.
I am too. Excited to have this conversation because I know a lot, especially of our members, know you as our head coach that's been with us, for all those years since we very first started Orangetheory. But I want to take it back to even before then. Tell us a little bit about you prior to Orangetheory. What did you do? And tell us the things you were involved in.
Yeah. So I'm a native. I'm proud to say it. Native of Colorado Springs, 36 years now. And I'm getting to be one of those grumpy natives that everybody and their mom wants to live here. And I'll always say it's okay if they're military. I'll accept that. But now it's like, okay, if they're going to be a member and move here, great. But the city's growing crazy. And so I'm one of those grumpy natives. But I just love Colorado Springs. And we live now in Monument, but always see myself definitely in this part of Colorado. Grew up, high school, college, master's degree, everything in Colorado Springs. Growing up was active, rode bicycles, motorcycles, unicycles, just running around doing flips, bouncing off of things, and played football. It was the only sport I played in high school, but I loved it. And what I really fell in love with the football aspect was the training part, the weight room. And that's really where I found my love in fitness is my junior year, I worked my tail off and became a starter both ways for varsity. I was the only person to start both ways. And I wasn't a huge guy, but I just really worked my tail off in the weight room. And then you might not even know this, but after our second game, I got really, really sick and I got mono. Everybody joked the kissing disease. And I'm like, well, actually, I'm not kissing anyone. But I got mono. And what that does is it enlarges your spleen. So I was sidelined from football for 6 weeks after working my tail off for my senior year. And it was very, very, very low point in my life. Just, I remember getting the diagnosis and just crying, saying, hey, I can't play football. But I used that time to get in the weight room and help other people in the weight room and with their conditioning. And that's really, really fell in love with fitness. And it was really cool. My coach saw how hard I was working and felt for me. So at the end of the year program, he created an award just for me called the Workout Warrior. So I was dubbed the first ever Workout Warrior. And I think that's kind of what set my path in motion. So when it came time to figure out what I want to go to college for, I had no idea. So I found UCCS and like, oh, exercise science. And it was just easy. All right, cool. We'll do it. And then after getting into that, I realized, you know what, I do enjoy this. I'll go ahead and get certified, look for my first job. And so at 20 years old, I got a job at a big box gym that was just opening up in Colorado Springs, premier club. They charged their people $80 an hour. I'm just this 20-year-old kid, just barely kind of knew what was going on, but I applied and got the job. And it's where I got my first foot kind of in the industry while I was still going to school. And so I loved it. I loved it. At the same time, I was working for the Sky Sox and then I had a part-time job helping my dad. So it kind of just fit just my lifestyle, just being busy, 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 going, going, going. And then Orange Theory came along and I was like, all right, I'll take on a fourth part-time job. And then since then the jobs have kind of disappeared, the other part-time jobs, and Orange Theory's been a full-time plus gig for, six, probably seven, no, 8+ years now. And for a while I was doing it all, but I'm glad it's on my home now.
I love that. And I remember you talking about working for your dad and you getting a lot of your work ethic there. Will you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So my dad does construction or did construction, tile specifically, a tile setter. He had his own business. And the joke is my my grandfather, my mom's dad, was a tile setter as well. And the joke is he got a tile setter's daughter pregnant. And that's how he fell into it. So 17 years old, that happened. And basically, well, you better get to work. Yeah, and so he's done construction his whole life. And as soon as I could go to work with him, I was. He was dragging me along, and I wasn't a huge helper, but I was carrying tile and, cutting tiles and whatnot. But really at 14, I'd say I probably started picking up working with him while I was in high school and through college. And I remember skipping school to go to work with him because he paid me well, but at the same time, I enjoyed it. And I look back and sorry, Annie, but that's probably my favorite job ever is working with him. Back then it wasn't. I hated it. He yelled at me. He told me to get my head out of my butt daily. If I was standing there, I was doing something wrong. He trained me to be able to think what he needed before he even thought he knew it. Here's this tool, here's this. And so that's where I did learn work ethic. I mean, because construction guy, he's gonna tell you what he's gonna tell you in a construction way. And he did it kind of loving, but at the same time, I knew he was upset with me. So I learned, just to be a go-getter. I learned also where he did remodel specifically. So we're in all types of people's houses, millionaires' houses, houses that I didn't want to go in without plugging my nose because they're just disgusting houses. But at 14, 15, I just learned like how to work well with adults, how to be professional. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. How to clean up after myself because I was in people's homes at a very young age. And it's kind of cool. Once started learning that, I started getting tips from the homeowners. Be like, oh, give this $50 to your son. He's just great. And so that kind of just like made me like, I'm going to do this more. I'm gonna start sucking up to these people more and make sure I'm doing everything for them. And so I learned a lot about hard work through him and my mom as well. I think about high school years, yeah, and Saturdays looking forward to sleeping in. There was no sleeping in my house. Like I can specifically remember them being outside of my window, outside digging a hole, making as much noise as possible at 8 a.m., saying like, man, it sure be nice if someone could come out here and help us. I'm like, just want to sleep in. So growing up that way made me that way into my adult life. As you know, 3:30 is my wake up time most days of the week, and today was my day off. I got up at 5:30 to go work out. When I sleep in, I almost feel like I'm wasting the day away, and I definitely learned that from my parents and at a young age.
I love that. Honestly, I think that's why we work together so well is because I had a similar upbringing and it wasn't that you were just going to sit around your house. It was always like we were going to do something and my parents, I always tell them they made up some crazy projects of having us haul rock and do different things, but it did teach that work ethic that I know that we see every day at Orange Theory with you.
Yeah, yeah. Another part-time job I had, and so I mean, I like being busy, and I probably refer to this a couple of times, but I feel like I have ADD. I've never been tested. I don't know if I could sit down and take the test, but I like having so many things going on at a time. And when I found Orange Theory, it was my fourth job at the time. But one of the huge jobs I have, I feel that shaped me. People may or may not know, is I was a mascot for 10 years for our local baseball team, the Colorado Springs Sky Sox. They were a farm team for the Rockies, and I just fell into that job. It went well because I already knew how to ride a unicycle and do a backflip and was energetic. But I fell into that job not having any idea what I was doing. And it's funny, every single job I've had, including Orangetheory, I've never really like had an interview. I just like did the job. But I was like, hey, because they didn't have a mascot. One again, I was at a game and they didn't have anybody, and I found somebody in charge. Like, where's your mascot? Like, oh, he just left. I was like, I want to be it. They're like, okay. And it was that, and it just turned out like that. I was good at it, and I wanted to be good at it, and I worked at it and learned new tricks and skills. But the mascot, his name was Socks the Fox. It was very, very unique. I've always thought like growing up, my mom was like, "You should do theater. You need to be an actor." But I was also a little too shy for that. But I never got into theater in high school. I missed that opportunity. But when this mascotting thing came along, I was like, okay, like I can wear a mask and nobody will know who I am. So maybe, maybe that's how I can kind of get some of my energy out. And the character is funny. It's a fox and he has a fake smile. Like it's not fake, it's real, but it's a permanent smile is a better way to say it. So that just kind of taught me a lot about life, like what's going on inside of that costume, what people can't see. Those people that are at the game and those little kids, they don't care. They see the smile on the outside and they want to, they expect the entertainment and the energy no matter what type of day I had. And the costume, the first question everybody asks is it hot inside there? And heck yes, it's hot. I've been known to lose 6 to 8 pounds during a summer day, during a day game of water. And that's not healthy. But I weighed myself and yeah, you sweat your tail off. But I wear a helmet over my head and then the costume head goes around the helmet. And I can remember in a hot summer day, the kids just love the mascot. They want to hug. And so I'm going up and I'm giving these kids hugs and they're pushing against my head and squeegeeing the pads in the helmet so that sweat is just dripping down my face and into my eyes and just stinging, but I can't touch my face. And I got this fake smile, permanent smile on, and in a way, a little bit miserable on the inside, but the outside, shell and what everybody's experiencing, they have no idea. And I just thought that was really unique, that like a representation of kind of how everybody should be at their job. Like nobody honestly cared how I was doing on the inside. At Orangetheory, we have our good days and our bad days as employees, but you need to show up for the members. They do care, but they don't necessarily care that hour that they're there for the workout. So I learned a lot in that aspect of going through the mascotting for 10 years that, all right, I put the game face on and get through this and put on a show.
Yeah, and I think you did that so well. I remember going to a couple of the games and just watching you, and it looked like you were having tons of fun. Whether you were in the inside or not, I don't know, but it looked like you made it seem like you loved everybody there. And I think you do that with Orange Theory too. Everybody that walks in our Orange Theory and our classes that you coach, you put yourself aside to put them first. And I think that speaks volumes for you because I'm guessing every day you don't feel that 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to make you think that I was miserable being a mascot or miserable as a coach, but I'm just honest, I'm just real. Like good days, bad days, and most like I wouldn't have done it for 10 years if I didn't love it. I wouldn't be with Orangetheory for 10 years if I didn't love it. And there's those moments. I have a lot of things on film. Like, I go back and I look at kids' smiles when they were hugging the mascot. And that reminds me and makes it worth it. Another good example, this is one of the big moments I've had. It was a long day. We had a double hitter, a rain delay at the baseball game. I was ready to be done. Like it was time for me to leave the field and go change and get on with my day. And I was running through the concourse and I get these people yelling at me, "Hey, Sox, hey, Sox." Well, I got that all the time. And oftentimes I had to just like keep going because you can't stop every minute. But I decided to stop and I looked up and there's this big group of people. I didn't exactly know what was going on, but I decided to go up to that group of people. And what I learned very quickly was it was a group of kids from the deaf and blind school. And most of them were blind. They couldn't see me. And they've never seen a mascot, obviously, in their life, but they wanted to touch me. And I'm like, okay. So I went up there and I turned around, let them grab my tail and feel my ears. And it was just amazing to like see or hear them respond to joy of seeing me for the first time. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like this is why I do it. This is why I stick around. I'm having my own day and I want to go, but like I just hopefully made, the day for these kids. So, there's constant reminders of those during Orange Theory as well.
Yeah. I love that. And I love how you just took the time and now you can go back and see the joy for them. You always say, I hear you say it a lot, you choose your attitude and your effort. Where did that saying come from? And do you live, it seems like you live it out. Is that your
Yeah.
kind of life?
Montreal in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mantra.
Yeah.
That's the word
Yeah.
I'm looking for.
Another Sky Sox thing, being the mascot, uh, you have a lot of time in that costume around people to yourself. And I was sitting back at, I was at a little league baseball game, and the coach was talking, the kids were all taking a knee. And I was there because I was cheering them on once the game started. But I was just there on the sidelines at that moment. I'm just listening to the coach give these kids a pep talk. And they were going against a team that was better than them, that, the coach knew that, and the kids might have known it as well. But he said, guys, gentlemen, or men, there's only two things you can control out there today: your attitude and your effort. He's like, everything else, I'll take care of it. You just keep a positive attitude, give me your best effort, and we'll do great today. And that was just like, just went off in my head, like, wow. And I hope it stuck with some of those kids at that young age, but it definitely stuck with me. And it's so true. Like whatever situation's throwing you away, good, bad, you're the only one in control of your attitude and how you perceive it, and then what your next steps are. And then from there, your effort. And that goes from my parents and the work, that they've instilled in me, but the effort you put into it, those two things can change the outcome of almost anything.
Yeah, I like that. And you always see that orange theory of you trying to get, I think, the best effort out of people. As a coach, how do you do that? How do you try and get people to give their best effort with your attitude that you coach with?
Yeah. Well, you got to have a positive attitude yourself and energy. Sometimes just the energy is all they need. Like, okay, hearing you say your intro and get that voice ready, and it got me going. That's all it takes. Sometimes it takes a text reach out to them, like, hey, I know you're going through this, but I'm excited to see you in class tomorrow. Sometimes it's just that personal reach outs. Sometimes it's pulling the microphone off and just going and like, hey, like, and recognizing, like, yeah, I could tell you're not, yourself today. And they're like, yeah, I got this, and this going on. And just letting them be okay with that. Like, all right, I get it. I love it. Just, you're here, give me your best. So personal asks. And I think honestly, a lot of it is too the environment of Orange Theory. Like, sure, I do a lot on the mic, but I rely a lot on everyone around me as well. And I did get up today, every day I have off, to work out. I didn't really want to. But as soon as I woke up, I looked at the class list and I saw the people in class. I was like, okay, I want to go work out with those people. And and I'm not going to say where I worked out, but I chose that studio over others because I was like, okay, I want to go work out with that person and that person. And then during the workout today, I was struggling. I had my head down, and somebody's like, "What? Are you tired?" And initially, I kind of snapped at him. I was like, "Yeah, I'm tired." And then I went over and I thanked him for it because it pushed me. So it's just the environment and spending time at in a big box gym one on one, and then fighting Orange Theory is why I was driven to Orange Theory so much more, because it fits my personality so much more, because it allows a lot of different people to come together and work together for the same cause, all at different levels. And I honestly, I wore the shirt for a reason today on this side because I live it and I love it.
Yeah. And you see that every day in your life. Tell me a little bit about, are there some things though that might surprise people
Yeah,
about you because they see you as Kelly the coach all the time? But tell us a little bit more about Kelly when you go home, or some things
yeah,
that they might not see every day.
yeah. So I'm an introvert extrovert. I can't just say introvert because people don't believe that. When I have like shells I put on, and going back to the Sky Sox mascotting days, I would do events and I would show up in plain clothes, meet my point of contact, and say, "Hey, I'm Kelly. I'm going to be the mascot today. What are you guys looking for?" And then I'd put the costume on, And then after the hour event, I would get out of it and they'd be like, oh my gosh, like, are you the same person that I just met? Yeah, it's like a light switch that turned on because I was professional and a little quiet when I met them, and they just blew their mind once they saw what I could do. And at the same thing, time at Orange Theory, like it's a show. And Orange Theory has been related to when I was being trained 10 years ago to acting, and I believe it's as close to acting and or being a mascot as possible. You have a stage, you have timing is important, you have a mark you need to be on, stand on at certain times, and it's a show. But when that show is done, like I am very ready to just chill and be by myself, be alone. I was thinking about it on the drive in today or into the workout. The radio in my car hasn't worked for over a year, and I love it. I just sit in silence. At the Sky Sox games, I'd be out in front of 8,000 people, going crazy, getting them all loud, and then I'd take a break and go to my break room and just sit there by myself, not talk to anybody for a 5 minute break. And I looked forward to those moments. Growing up in high school and whatnot, I was so fearful of public speaking, uh, especially reading aloud. I'm not the best reader, I'll be honest, and I never did it well, and I never practiced it. And in fact, I cheated myself. You all remember the day when we sat in a circle and you like took turns popcorn reading. When my time was to come, I sometimes hid in the bathroom. I did not want to talk in front of everyone. I even pretended to be asleep one day when it was my turn to read, and I pretended through the teacher like yelling, and I'm like, nope, I'm sticking this out. Um, and I don't know where that came from, and I eventually kind of grew out it a little bit, but I still don't love it. Speeches, best man speech. I've been a best man for two weddings, and I've hated leading up to them. When I did them, everyone said, "Oh my gosh, you did amazing." One person was even like, "You should do that for a living," and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You don't know what I was going through before that." And even before I coach every class, I'm coming up on 8,000 classes, and I'm a little nervous every time. When a coach is in my class, I'm nervous. When you're in my class, I'm nervous. And it goes back, and maybe even the reading thing, it goes back to wanting to do a good job. And that's why you're nervous. And, some people will say, if you're not nervous, you must not care enough. Some people will say, you know, if you're nervous, maybe you didn't prepare enough. I like to think that it's more because I care so much. I want to do as good as I can. But I'm just honest. Like I get them butterflies, and just a warm up stretch we did this last weekend. I'm like, oh my gosh, everything ready? Are we good to go? So I'm introvert, extrovert. My wife and I moved to Monument. So I grew up in Colorado Springs, but all them people coming into the city, we moved up to Monument to get out of the way a little bit. We got a few acres spread out. I see my neighbors, but do I talk to my neighbors? Not really. I haven't talked to one of them in over 2 years. Got another neighbor who's great. Love the guy, but I'd rather just sit at home and be by myself and work on projects. And I'm a homebody. It's kind of weird. I tell people that in studio, and they're like, "Whoa!" But I think some people get it. Like when you put so much in at one time, and I think other people could maybe admit to this as well. Like it takes a lot of energy. You can't do that 100% of the time.
Yes. No, you can't. And I think that's really important and something I don't think a lot of people think about or see or would even expect from you because you're so on in the studio. And even it surprises me to hear you get a little nervous before classes or when you did the warm up because you make it look so easy.
It's a fake it show. It's a show. Once I get going, but yeah, I don't know. And this other thing, and it's going back to mascotting. If I'm going to, I would come out for my intro when we'd have a busy game, a Friday night, 8,000 people, and do a backflip. I wasn't good at it, and especially wasn't good at it with an 8 pound head, but I made it. I didn't ever break my neck. But going into that, I was always nervous. But I thought to myself, at least nobody knows who I am, and at least I'm not public speaking. But then when I go into a public speaking thing, I'm like, at least I don't have to do a backflip in front of 8,000 people where I could potentially break my neck. So I always like give myself that quick pep talk, like it could be worse.
Yes. What about one other thing? Because you sometimes will mention this. We have a staff that really does love to work out. And working out, I know isn't something that's maybe your very favorite, but you still do it consistently, especially at Orange Theory, and you stay in great shape. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, back to my childhood and how I got into fitness through sports in high school and then right into college. That was my time for loving fitness. I was all about it. I would skip class in high school and go to weights class. And the funny thing was, the teachers didn't care. Another unknown fact about me, although I didn't love reading and certain things, I graduated in the top 5% of my class and I got straight A's. And I had the ability to skip. They're like, it's all right. You're good. So I would skip class and go to weights class. I would skip and go to gym class. This was all senior year. You're allowed to do that stuff a little bit. But that was my time for loving it. I built a gym in my parents' basement. In high school or in college, I was, on the same wavelength. But once it became my job, as sad as it is, it became a job. And I mean, I still enjoy and love the Orangetheory workout, but at the same time, like before Orangetheory, my workouts were ADD workouts. Like I get bored easily. I needed to do something. So at the big box gym I worked at, I was jumping from Swiss ball to Swiss ball, climbing up the stairs on my hands and knees backwards. Like I was just, I don't know, I was just doing things that kept my interest. I became interested in parkour for a little bit until I realized it's starting to get dangerous. And find a wall, climb over it, flip off of something. So, as I got older, I couldn't kind of do all those crazy things as much. And, working out has now become more of a thing I get to do. And the biggest thing I think about is there's people that want to work out that physically can't work out. And so that us as able bodied, even if our own ailments, I guarantee you, we're more able bodied than somebody that doesn't have legs, somebody who's injured or has a spinal cord injury. Those people will give anything to do an all out on the treadmill. And so I think about those people like I do it because I can and I have the ability to. And I always feel better afterwards. But it kind of definitely what keeps me motivated, keeps me going.
I think those are such good reasons. I love the I get to.
Yeah. We get to, and then, sorry. And then, I get to at Orangetheory and going back to why I choose Orangetheory and you say it, we say it, it's the community. That's what keeps me wanting to, because I could probably go do something on my own, but I'm not going to at the ability, at the effort level, and I'm not going to enjoy it as much because yes, introvert, extrovert, I want to see those people too sometimes. So it's nice to have that option.
It is. They'll always push you and keep you going harder than you would work on your own.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your transition into Orangetheory. So you go from working with your dad and the mascot, and now you're in Orangetheory. And some people might not know it, but we actually auditioned as coaches together almost 10 years ago.
Oh.
And you came in as a phenomenal coach. You've always been a really great coach. But when you came into Orangetheory, 25 years old, and you soon became our head coach. And I think that was your first leadership position.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Tell me a little bit about that journey of, the coaching and the fitness side, but learning the leadership side.
Yeah, it's an ongoing constant thing from by 10 times the hardest part of my job. I can coach a class with my eyes shut. I can coach a class. And unfortunately, these days, with all of the, a lot of people under me and a lot of the things you have to do as a manager, I can be talking to a whole group of people. I could be demoing exercises while I'm thinking about another issue and not even thinking about what I'm saying. And I got to catch myself, but it's because, I don't like it, but I can get by with it. And, some things of the coaching realm has become autopilot, but it's the other side of the glass that is constantly challenging. And everyone who's been in fitness will agree, fitness professionals they're a handful, and myself included. They got personalities, they got a lot going on. Fitness is often a part-time job for them, so they have other lives and other jobs. And so one of the big struggles is just managing the different personalities and everybody's certain situation. And learning how they respond to feedback, learning how they respond to your style of leadership, and learning how to talk to them all individually is definitely a constantly going struggle.
You've done it well, though, and you've learned it well over the past 10 years. I remember one of the first times we had a conversation because a lot of the coaches and the people we deal with are women. And one of them was crying early on the, I don't even remember what it was for, But I think you called and was like, "Oh my gosh, she started crying." I was like, "Well, yeah, ladies do that or girls do that a lot." And now I think, somebody probably cries every week to you, and you are just so good at taking on that emotion
Yeah.
and helping them through that. What has that process been like in dealing with all the females that you deal with over the years?
I think I think come like the first time it shocked me, but now I'm just like, bring it on, let it out. Let's just go. Let's just do this. And I crack a joke or something. I make them smile and I make them laugh. But I just understand that I want them to understand I'm here to support them. And whatever they're crying about, I know it's a big deal, but I'm not going to make it a big deal, and we'll figure it out. Like, don't worry about our side of things. If it's a personal thing, like we'll take care of you. You need to take care of whatever that issue is. And then they realize, okay, this person's on my side. And then it just helps the conversation along. Like, okay, I felt so much better. Like, and then they respond to you once you know that you're there just to help them. You're not only worried about business. Because it's true. I mean, you lead the way, Andy, with I mean, we are here for our employees and we care about their well-being. We need them to be good people and good at home and good with their life before they can be good people for us. And so I think it's going into it with that, just taking it as it comes and supporting it because it's going to come. It's going to keep coming. And it's happened in an interview before I even hired someone, and then I hired him. It's happened in the middle of a class. It's happened during phone calls, and yeah. So I should have expected it. Um, I don't want to knock on the ladies only. Like men have their we're emotional guys too. So it's just meeting them where they are and supporting them, and once they see that, things go so much more smooth.
Yeah. And I think people probably see you do it for members a lot, but what I see is with employees of just supporting them, like you said, as people, and then supporting them as employees as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
That's really important. How do you think that's helped you with Amy, your wife, and now your 2.5-year-old Quinn, your
yeah,
daughter? How do you
yeah.
think dealing with all the emotions, has that been helpful at home?
Yeah, definitely. And Amy knows it and sees it that she's like Quinn, our 2.5-year old, she's starting to get emotional, but I know more emotions are coming. And Amy always says, like, you're going to be the one to deal with it because you do it, or you're going to deal with it well because you deal with it all the time. So I haven't seen too much of it. Just, thankfully her fits are over silly things and then she's over it in a minute. And as far as Amy goes, you know, she hears everything about Orange Theory. She's my sounding board and she knows what's going on. And she's like, oh, great. What now? What's this person talking about now? But she's also supportive of it as well. So I think she, honestly, like she helps me through those situations just as much. But she's got her own career, and I look at her job and my job completely different. And so does she. Like with her job, and she's a nurse practitioner in the ER, if somebody messes up, someone could die. And so the way she approaches, my trouble, she's like, big deal. So a member's upset about X, Y, and Z. And so she kind of helps ground me actually more than I might even help ground her when I'm dealing with all the emotions.
Yeah. I think that's great that you can have that sounding board and go back and forth and that you do keep each other grounded.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the biggest change in you, maybe as a person, either as a coach or a leader, over these past 10 years that you've seen?
Everybody makes fun of me when I say I'm getting older, but I am 10 years older when I started. And I've learned that our members are going through a lot because I'm starting to go through some of these things. You get older and your body starts hurting. And I've had, 10 years ago, if a member was complaining about an injury, I'd be like, you're fine, just push through it. And we hear plantar fasciitis a lot. Well, a year ago, I had plantar fasciitis and that kicked my butt. Like it was no joke. And now I'm more sympathetic or empathetic when people have that injury. When people are talking about lack of sleep because their kids are, keeping them up. Before I was just like, it's fine, push through it. But I can now understand that. So I think I'm able to just relate to the members more as I get older because 24-year-old kid, you don't have much, not many problems going on at that point. And when our average clientele is the 38, 40-year-old female, I didn't relate to them well. And I feel like I'm getting to relate with them more and more as time goes on, as I find my ailments, as I go through parenthood, I'll be able to relate with them a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that and can see, especially with you having, I don't know if the audience knows, but a 2.5 and a 1 year old now. You have two kiddos close
Right.
together.
Yeah.
And a lot of times your wake up call is 3:30 in the morning. So sleep definitely comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a rough year for, since the 1 year old's been around. And my wife and I try to normalize the fact that we're honest about how it's kind of sucked. Like, it's been a roughest year of our life, at home, personally, through a relationship, and then trying to managing work. And that goes back to being able to put on that permanent smile as a mascot and just get through it. But I mean, we don't shy away from it. It's no joke. And so I see that with the members. And so then I try to understand, like, this is their hour away from their kids. And I know they're enjoying that. So I want to make sure it's the best hour that they get.
Yeah. So good. When we came in for Orange Theory, I was thinking back over the 10 years, and we used to a lot of times make our own workouts. A lot of times we would write them on the mirror or a chalkboard. So we've seen a lot of change with the brand. What has been your biggest, I guess, thing that you've noticed that Orange Theory has changed?
Yeah. Yeah. So, as you said, when we started, people don't know we were 164th studio to be granted a license. So we started very early on in the game. First 10% of studios that are currently open at this moment. Yeah, there were no rules. Got to make stuff up, and I enjoyed that. But it wasn't until I started learning, like, Orange Theory knows what they're talking about. There's a lot of science behind it. They got professionals that develop these workouts, and I am not bigger than Orange Theory. And so I learned that very early on, but I also learned that when I'm hiring people, if they come in and they think they're bigger than Orange Theory, then move on. Like, if you don't believe in what we do, move on. It's that easy. There's plenty of other places you can work. And one of Orange Theory's big core values is innovation. And so from their template programming to the technology in the studio, over the last 10 years, they just keep moving ahead with that, keep changing things, keep advancing things. And I appreciate that they're not just sticking with what has worked before, and they're molding and changing. And you, as a franchisee, understand the pluses and minuses of owning a franchise where they're telling you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But at the same time, I look at, like, COVID and how many gyms didn't make it through COVID, and we made it through COVID because Orange Theory's brand is strong, because they have the direction, they know where they're going, and they're moving that direction with or without people that don't want to be on board. So I've learned to trust Orange Theory. When I started, so I was taking on a part-time job, and Amy was like, "What is this? Like, are you sure you want to, like, leave what you're doing?" Because the big box gym eventually hinted me a non-compete. You choose Orange Theory, you choose us. And I chose to leave a place that was paying me well, that gave me benefits, that I didn't have to really work too hard in anymore because I was established, for something that was brand new. And she was like, "Are you sure you want to, like, give that up? Like, what if this is just a fad?" And for whatever reason, I was sure. I was like, "Nope, I'm good." And 10 years later, to see, that it was the right decision. And it's because Orange Theory has adapted. So I'm very thankful for that.
I am too. And for me, I think ego probably would have gotten in the way of, I would have been like, oh, I can run any business and it will be fine. And getting into it as a business owner, I'm very thankful for the brand.
Yeah.
Just sometimes you don't love the constraints, but I'm happy that we have them because I love the direction they're always moving in and pushing forward.
Yeah.
You said something in there about COVID, and we went through this together, that we had to shut down our studios. We initially thought for a month, it ended up being 3 months, and then we came back a year in mass. So it
Yeah.
was a challenging time. Give me your thoughts during that time. Were you scared that we were going to close permanently?
Yeah. 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 So I remember that day just like you do. We had to close down just abruptly. And the next day we had a manager meeting, a leadership meeting, and it was St. Patrick's Day. So I bought a bottle of champagne. The staff was sad I didn't bring 2 bottles. We went through that quickly, and we were just talking about next steps and what are we going to do. And I remember thinking, like, I'm excited to take a break. because I was just going, 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 going. And I was looking forward to what I thought or we thought was going to be a 2 week break. Awesome. I'll get some rest, sleep in. I'll get to enjoy the introvert side of myself a little bit, maybe work on the house. And I felt bad about thinking that way. I think I was still honest, but I felt bad. I was like, oh, great, sweet, vacation. But after the 2 week mark, I was like, oh, longer? After the month mark, longer? Okay. I mean, I guess I'll enjoy this a little more. But after about a month, I was starting to get nervous, and I wasn't nervous in you or because you did a great job keeping us together as a team and taking care of us the best you could. But I was just nervous about the fitness industry. I was like, is this going to kill the fitness industry? Like, is it time to find, you know, my next step? Um, and it's funny because I spent a lot of time at Home Depot and I was trying to remodel my upstairs at that time. But so I had all this time to work on it, but I didn't know where the money was going to come from. So I was kind of just stuck. I was demoing things because that's free, but I was afraid to buy things. But I was spending a lot of time at Home Depot, and the general manager there was like, I see you here all the time. And you're always so like energetic and talking to my employees. And when I saw him in there another day later, and eventually, and I don't even know if you know this, she was like, I mean, if you want to work here, like you could. And I was like, maybe I do. Guy, it's orange, so that works. And I love, building things. And I thought about it a little bit. And then thankfully at that time you were keeping me busy enough with projects around the studio, building things. But I never, took action on that. I'm thankful I didn't. But I remember thinking, like, if I need to leave fitness, what am I going to do? And then I remember Peloton getting big, and I hated Peloton. I still don't like them. And I was like, that's not fitness. Like, sure, they're moving, but they're in their basement by themselves in front of a TV screen. Like, that is not what fitness is meant to be. It's meant to be community. It's meant to be physical contact with people. It's meant to be emotional, and you just can't get that. So, I was bitter at them. I was bitter at some of our members that were leaving and going to them. But you always say this, like, our competition is the couch. We want members just to move. So I was in the back of my mind, I was like, what would Annie say? At least they're moving. They'll be back when they realize they want community. And I take a little pride to know that Peloton's not doing as well as they were doing during COVID. Well, because that's not what fitness is supposed to be.
Yeah, I think we both believe that it really is community, and moving your body is the benefit, but community gets to be a big piece of that.
Yeah.
What would you say? You've helped thousands of people over the years of improving their fitness. And most of our people at Orange Theory, they come in because they want to lose weight or they're beginning a fitness journey. We do have the other side where we have elite athletes that want to push to the next level, but the majority are beginners. What would you say to that person walking in the door that's thinking about starting a fitness routine? What advice would
Yeah.
you have for them?
Yeah. I would say walk through the front door. And that's the hardest step. We say it, but it's true. And I know several instances where we've had first time guests come to our studio, get in the parking lot and leave, not actually walk through the front door. They took the action of signing up for the class, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't get all the way through the door. And I understand, like, wherever they are in their fitness journey, they're not, they think they can't do it. They may be ashamed of themselves. They're worried about how they're going to feel, how people are going to perceive them. And we understand that, but I guarantee every single one of them will take care of all that as soon as they walk through the front door. So that's the thing. And going back to getting off the couch, if it's not Orange Theory, it's something. You just have to take the first step and then see it through. Another thing I think that can help those people is bring someone else along, whether they physically come with you or you tell someone you're going to do it. Because if you tell them, I'm going, tell your spouse, I'm going to Orange Theory tomorrow, and then you get in that parking lot and you turn around and you don't do it, they're going to hold you accountable a little bit, or at least be there to support you. So bring them along, share your goals with them so that you have some accountability. It's funny, you started the push-up challenge a few months ago, and then I jumped on board with flossing. And the next month it was push-ups. This month, for the month of August, we're in August, and I'm going strong. I'm staying off of social media 50 minutes or less a day. And I told you guys in our leadership group, I'm going to not go more than 50 minutes on social media. And I haven't because I simply told you. So now I just have to think of, okay, what am I going to do in September? What am I going to tell people I'm going to do in September so that I could be held accountable? So bring someone else along on the journey, physically or not, to hold you accountable.
I think that's so important. And I do the same thing. It's why I did like the push up challenge because I know I'll do it if I tell other people. And you're
Yeah.
similar, like the social media thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to join me in September. Mine is going to be to walk 100 miles. So
Woo,
Orange Theory
nice.
counts
How many days?
for
Three,
walking dogs.
3 a day, 3 miles a day, 3+ miles a day.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can see if you want to join me on it.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, any last things you'd like to share with the audience today?
Here's major suck up time. So just take it, Annie. So I've been with Orangetheory for 10 years now. And in those 10 years, pretty much all 10 years as a head coach, I've seen, and this is no exaggeration, there's, I think, 40 plus Orangetheories in Colorado now. In those 10 years, I've seen, no exaggeration, probably 200 plus head coaches come and go from their position at Orangetheory. And that's because they're with different ownership groups. They're in different situations. They're not in the right community. But I've seen so many of them come and go. And I'm asking myself, like, why? Like, what is it? And you could say, like, I have a certain amount of grit or part of my personality, but I truly believe, hands down, a lot of it has to do with you, the type of owner you are, the type of community that we built. My favorite quote that members say is, I've never stuck with something this long in my life, when they're talking about working out. And I think that that's because we created that for our staff. When I tell people, when I tell a new coach coming in that's worked at other Orangetheories before, I tell them, like, you're coming into like a group of strong coaches. Like, your average coach has coached 3,000 classes. And they're like, oh my gosh. Because the lifespan of a coach, unfortunately, is not long. Because it's a tough job. The demands are tough. It's a part-time job for most people. But it ultimately comes down to the owner. When I'm trying to recruit a new coach from another state, I tell them, like, sure, your owner might be great, but ours is better. I tell them that, like, you might have had problems with ownership X, Y, Z in the past, that you just come meet her. I guarantee you'll be happy with what you see. And so, huge testament to you. A big suck up moment. I just appreciate, like, fitness is not. I learned when I was going to school and working at the same time, fitness is very hard to make a career. And I've found a career at Orangetheory, and that's because of you.
Thank you. I truly appreciate that. And I appreciate you you've helped me build. I had this vision and dream. I didn't want to own a gym when we purchased Orangetheory, but I really wanted to create a community. And the first time we were supposed to open in the Denver Tech Center, and the first time I went to Colorado Springs, they're like, just go look at it. I was like, I don't want to go to Colorado Springs. I don't want to make that drive. It's not my community. And for some reason, I just really felt called. And I'm so thankful that we did and that we've got to work together for the past 10 years because you've really helped us build that vision and community. And there's no way that we could have done it without you and your passion and your energy for people and your love for people.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate that. How would people best connect with you? I know they can connect with you in our studios at Colorado Springs. Are you on Facebook or Instagram?
I'm on both. I'm trying to stay off of them less than an hour a day, but it doesn't take that long to check a message. So yeah, definitely they can reach out to me on social. But I would say get your tail in Orangetheory. That's how we really get to know each other.
Yes. Love that. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being a guest on Be the Person podcast. You really, I think, enlightened us and shared a lot about what we don't get to see when you coach a class in a little bit more of who you are. So I love that part of it.
So thank you.
So, everyone, if you enjoyed this podcast today, I would just ask that you follow it, and it would mean the world to me if you would leave a 5-star review. We appreciate you joining in today. Thanks so much.